Right, things have gotten so interesting in Pool A, and the game that still needs to happen, India against Argentina, all of a sudden is the most important game in Group A. If you haven't seen the table, I implore you, go and look at Group A's table. Australia is in 12 points, pretty much guaranteed group victory. India on 6 with a game in hand, they're pretty much guaranteed to qualify for the quarterfinals as well. But third, fourth, and fifth spot go to Spain, New Zealand, and Argentina on 4 points, all of them, with Spain on a goal difference of -1 and New Zealand and Argentina on a goal difference of -2. So that game between India and Argentina will truly decide who likely finishes first, or not first, but second, third, fourth, and fifth. And the reason for that is it could have been completely different. Spain and Japan today had a game that neither team could afford to lose or draw. Because if we saw a draw, that would have most likely been Japan and Spain out of contention for the quarterfinals. If Japan won, Spain would have gone out. If Spain won, it's most likely Japan now. Now, mathematically, it is still possible for Japan to qualify for the quarterfinals, but the goal difference that they have to make up against India, I just don't see it happening, unfortunately. And it's a shame because I want to talk about Spain, New Zealand, and Japan specifically. Australia, is there really a point to talk about them? Yes and no. The only thing to say really is it'll be interesting to see whether Australia rest their team since they pretty much guaranteed group victory against Spain in the last game, or if they still try to go for the fifth victory in 5 games. They will likely do so, but they won't give it their all. They'll just likely try to coast through and just control the game from the very first moment, get an early goal or two, and then just play around the back. But I want to talk about Japan and Spain, and then a little about New Zealand, because Japan, much like South Africa and much like Canada, has been the underdog. They are the team that no one expects to qualify. They're the team that no one expects to play well or even to get a point. And it's a shame because they do have a lot of quality in their team. And Japan is a team that knows they're not likely to make the quarterfinals, but they're not afraid to attack. And if there's anything that I just ask from teams, it's to attack, it's to go for it, it's to try and at least play hockey and not sit back with 11 men. And they did start off really well today with a goal in the second minute, but Spain responded immediately with Leonat scoring in the third. And from there on out, really, Spain and Japan tried to feel each other out. No one really wanted to concede another goal early on. And when Kamada scored in the 23rd, that's really when Spain started to control the game, play it around, get a third goal, get a fourth goal, and just make sure that they are in the driver's seat. So they still need to play Australia, that they're in a driver's seat for that quarterfinal spot. But Spain today, it's an interesting case because we still haven't seen the best of Spain, obviously. And they're not even at 80%. Then I wouldn't say that 75% either. But what they did today is something that I wouldn't have expected them to do in their first 3 games, which was concede early on and find a way back. They didn't panic. They got a goal very, very soon after. They didn't just try to force their way through and then concede another goal while trying to score. They didn't find their way back into the game, only to let another team back into the game by scoring 2 or 3 goals like they did against New Zealand. And that's a good thing for Spain, because going into the game against Australia, they really needed to have confidence at the back, and especially confidence up front with guys like Kamada, with guys like Leonard getting on the score sheet. That's important. They need to get a goal early against Australia. They need to start to control the game. They need to tie around Australia if they want to have a chance of making it to the quarterfinals. But they do not really control their own destiny in this group, because the very last game, and I mean last as in it's the last to be played, is New Zealand against Australia. And depending on the game between Argentina and India tonight, if Argentina wins and then New Zealand wins if Argentina wins against India, and New Zealand wins against Argentina in a few days, that's pretty much Spain out of it. But the game between New Zealand and Argentina will most likely decide if Spain makes it through or not. And for a long time today, it looked like New Zealand could have actually gotten a draw or even a victory against Australia. And it's a shame that they didn't, because as I've said, we haven't really seen any team at 100%. The closest that we came was Australia against India, but even then, India just wasn't good that day. And that's not to take anything away from the Kookaburras, because they were great. Offensively, they were great. Yes, they conceded the goal, but that's not really a problem. India just wasn't good that game. And the closest we came to see any team to their best, but they still weren't, was New Zealand today. And they really dared to push Australia back. If you looked at the game, for long stretches of the game, they were actually in control, maybe not of the ball, but of what happened. Australia was pushed back into their own into their own 25. They were forcing mistakes, some bad passing, and up until the 50th minute, it really started, the fatigue really started to show for New Zealand, and that's when Australia tried to push. They knocked on the door, they really tried to push forward. Tim Brand got it 2 goals, and it was the best game that we've seen from Tim Brand today so far. But Blake Govers again gets his goal, and then it's 3-1, it's 4-1. New Zealand comes back, it's 4-2, but it's too little too late. And it's a shame, because if we see this New Zealand against a team like Belgium or a team like Germany, they might not necessarily win, but they could. Not to say that they will, but they very well could. And I have no idea who qualifies now, because it depends on the game between India and Argentina today. And again, this is my 19th attempt, I think. Could have been my 20th. I don't remember. I've had lots of attempts at trying to film this video, and there's so much to discuss here. Spain isn't the best yet, but they have an opportunity to qualify if Australia decides to take it easy. New Zealand and Argentina, that game is the very last game. They'll give 100%. That's going to be an absolute barn burner. Who comes out victorious? I would not be surprised with a draw, but who does that favour? I would suspect Argentina most likely. But Argentina today really needs to get at least a point against India, because if they lose, that goal difference gets even lower. And then the game against New Zealand, if they go behind, or if it takes a long time to score, they will start to panic. They will start to really to try the impossible. They will overthink it, and then it looks like, and that moment, that could be the moment that Argentina's Olympic hopes fall into the water. But that still remains to be seen. I have no idea what's going to happen tonight between India and Argentina. Another important game tonight, obviously, is Great Britain, Netherlands. That'll also probably determine who finishes second, third, or fourth in Group B, though Germany and the Netherlands still have to face each other. So I'm very much looking forward to these games tonight. Group A has gotten so damn interesting. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to see how they set up, if they set up defensively or offensively. I would suspect offensively, because they need to make up that goal difference. And then, yeah, we'll see what happens. So if you've enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to the channel, liking the video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll talk to you later.